In the heart of Spain, within the ancient walls of Ávila, faith and history meet in an event that every year draws pilgrims, devotees, and curious travelers from around the world. It is October the 15th, the day the city celebrates its most illustrious daughter, Saint Teresa the Mystic, a reformer and the first woman to be proclaimed a doctor of the Church. In a Spain marked by wars, reforms, and inquisitions, a woman was born in 1515 who would forever change the face of Christian spirituality.
Pensiamo che pochi anni prima,
And we must remember that just a few years before Teresa's birth, the Protestant Reformation had erupted. All of Lutheran theology was emerging. It quickly became not just a religious movement, but also a political one, sparking the wars of religion across Europe. Teresa witnesses the suffering of the Church, and in her heart arises a deep desire to lift it up, to heal the wounds inflicted upon it.
le ferite che si producono nella Chiesa.
Teresa's determination and deep spirituality were evident from a young age. In Rome, Father Murene recounts an episode from her childhood, depicted in a bas relief in the Church of St. Teresa of Ávila, that clearly reveals her strong and courageous character.
Lei, siamo agli inizi da quando è ancora bambina.
This episode from Teresa's life takes us back to her early years, when she was still a child. Together with her brother, she ran away from home, wanting to go and be martyred by the Moors. In the bas relief, we can also see the uncle who caught up with them, brought them back home. Yet this story, which Teresa herself recounts, already reveals a desire that would later grow and mature throughout her life. In fact, at one point, she would even write a poem in which she says, "I die because I do not die."
Qui dice muoio perché non muoio.
As she grew older, Teresa's faith was put to the test. At the age of 20, she entered the convent, but it was not the life that she had imagined. Teresa went through a long spiritual crisis, one that reflected the broader crisis within the church of her time. Father Emilio Martinez, professor at the Pontifical Theological Faculty Theresianum, explains how Saint Teresa, founder of the Discalced Carmelite order, became one of the most important figures of the Catholic Reformation.
Lei infatti nelle sue fondazioni
In her foundations, she sought a much simpler environment, reducing the number of nuns living in the monasteries, leading a stricter and above all more isolated life, but not out of a love for harsh penance or an excessive focus on asceticism, rather so that the nuns could be free and not have to submit to the constant coming and going of people within the monastery.
Her life in the convent was marked by illness, but it was precisely through suffering that something extraordinary happened.
La famosa esperienza della trasverberazione.
The famous experience of the transverberation, which we also see represented here nearby in the Church of Santa Maria della Victoria, Bernini's celebrated ecstasy of St. Teresa. It was there that she lived through this extraordinary experience of the angel piercing her heart. She describes how, in that moment, she felt as though she were dying, yet at the same time, experiencing an infinite delight, a sweetness so intense that it made her long for that death to be fulfilled.
Quella morte si compia.
Nessuna visione, ma una percezione.
Father François-Marie Lettel, recognized as one of the foremost experts on the saint and currently living in Lisieux, France, was interviewed by EWTN Vatican journalist Giada Dottavi regarding the meaning of her mystical visions.
I would say that this transverberation is somewhat the equivalent of St. Francis's stigmata, founders who receive a special grace of communion with Christ, sharing in Christ's sufferings for a fruitful purpose, for a greater work.
Besides founding convents, Teresa was also a writer. Her works, such as the interior castle, are masterpieces of mystical literature.
Castello interiore che è come una sintesi.
The interior castle is essentially a synthesis of all her spirituality, a profound reflection on the words of Jesus in the Gospel of John. Whoever loves me will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our dwelling with him.
Lui, la nostra dimora.
Teresa spoke of the soul as a castle made up of many rooms, with God dwelling at the center.
Diciamo, quello in cui lei descrive
It's a work in which she describes the path that the Christian must take to enter into themselves. In a way, we could call it a kind of spiritual GPS, a navigator of the soul. You may be going through certain emotions or situations and think they're just sadness or anxiety or inner unrest. But Teresa tells you, look, there's a depth in all of this that has to do with your relationship with God, whether it's present or absent, whether you're living with it well or struggling with it, whether it's guiding you or whether you're running away from it.
o dal quale tu stai sfuggendo.
Pope Paul VI in 1970 recognized the universal and enduring value of her teachings, bestowing upon her the title of Doctor of the Church.
Nella Basilica di San Pietro, in Vaticano,
In St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, as soon as you enter, look to the right and you will see the statue of Saint Mother Teresa of Jesus. We call her Saint and Mother because she is our foundress. Teresa was declared a doctor of the Church because, through her written teachings conveyed in her works and letters, she is able to illuminate the spiritual life of every Christian. In other words, Teresa is a teacher of the Christian life. She is a figure who guides us so that we can fulfill the vocation to which we were called at our baptism. And it is for this reason that Pope Paul VI declared her a doctor of the Church.
Paolo VI l'ha dichiarata dottore della Chiesa.